Article 16. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $575? Excuse me, I forgot the 1,000 in there, which seems to maybe be a little important. $575,000 for road reconstruction and resurfacing of roads, with up to $280,902 anticipated to be received from the State of New Hampshire Highway Block Grant pursuant RSA 235, and the remaining balance of approximately $294,098 to be raised by taxation and added to the previously established Road Reconstruction Capital Reserve Fund. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen. The estimated tax impact is 23 cents.
Move the article.
I'll second it.
This is a every year occurrence for us. It just gives the DPW the money they need to reconstruct and resurface and can maintain our roads. That's what the purpose of it.
I recognize the Chair of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Weare Finance Committee is recommending this article by a vote of 9-0. The 2019 road reconstruction bond provided critically needed resources to reverse the deteriorating condition of the town roads. The town is now in a much better position to target recurring resources on maintaining roads before they require a complete and costly restoration. The increased amount over last year's article is reflective of increased costs of materials used in road maintenance. State reimbursement is expected to provide just under 50% of the total cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion on Article 16. Seeing none. Oh.
Well, kind of, I already referred to it the last article. Isn't it amazing that this article is laid out to the taxpayers to be self-explanatory, very transparent, and they know exactly what they're voting on and what it's going to cost them. So if it's in the hands of the selectmen to write articles to either be very explanatory, as this one here. In fact, this article, it used to, up to a few years ago, till I stood up here in front of everybody, it used to not even contain what the tax impact related to. All right, that, in this case, the $294,000 was left out. And by some stroke of luck, now it's included. So there's inconsistency on the way the board writes their articles, and the inconsistency leads to not being transparent, in my eyes.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, it will move to the ballot as written. Okay, all those in favor of restricting reconsideration? Okay. Article 17. To see if the town will vote to establish a master plan update capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35(1) to begin funding the update of the master plan and to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be placed in this fund. Further, to name the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from said fund, recommended by the Board of Selectmen with an estimated tax impact of 2 cents.
Move the article as written. The master plan was last updated in 2005. This capital reserve fund is the first installment of a 3-year plan. Typically, every 5 years, the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission prepares and updates a comprehensive plan for the region. Additionally, the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission regularly works with members of the community in developing and updating local master plans. It is the duty of every planning board as established by RSA 673:1 to prepare and amend a master plan to guide the growth and development of the municipality. The master plan acts as a guide for the future and identifies the most appropriate future development for the community and aids the planning board in designing ordinances that would achieve the master plan's vision and result in smart growth, sound planning, and wise resource protection.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. As with a similar vote, this was closer to a split, so I'll be representing both opinions. the Weare Finance Committee is not recommending this article. Now, I'm going to take a minute because this is confusing to me at first, so I'm just going to say it out. 5 members voted not to recommend the article, 3 members voted to recommend the article, and 1 abstained. This article would establish a capital reserve fund to update the town master plan. It would also provide the first of 3 years of funding to support updating our current plan, which is from 2005. The committee majority believes there are more critical funding priorities this year. Committee members in the minority believe having a current master plan is a useful tool for the planning board and that upgrading the master plan is overdue considering the changes in the town over the past 15 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion on this article.
Bruce Fillmore, Gould Road. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Planning Board. We recommended this because, as stated, our master plan is very outdated. The complexion of town has changed since the last master plan was crafted. And we really like some guidance, and this is where we get it from, is the master plan, on what to do with our current zoning ordinance, which it honestly needs some work, and we don't know where to go with it. We need to have this master plan done. I mean, the zoning is a result of the master plan. And the planning board is the one that proposes zoning changes. The zoning board just makes decisions on appeals and things like that. They have nothing to do with the proposed zoning changes. So we really need guidance. We're working with a 16-year-old document that is irrelevant.
Thank you. Other discussion?
Tom Clow, 125 Concord Stage Road. I'm speaking in favor of the article as an individual, not as a Finance Committee member. The revision of the master plan, one of the advantages I see is through that process, and the process will be more than a short-term thing. This is installment 1 of a 3-year financing of it. But the process itself will really stimulate a lot of community discussion as far as what we want our town to look like in the future. You could drive through town and see the new developments that have been coming in and say, do you want that to continue as is, or would you see a different mode of development? I'm not speaking against development, but I think that we have to step back and take a look at what's happening, and are we losing the rural character of our town entirely the way that it is being developed? And the decisions that go into making that should be from the community as a whole, and discussing a new master plan, creating a new master plan, will bring in that community input that we need as far as what we want to look like in the future. So I support this article.
Thank you, Mr. Clow. Nope.
Brent Dickinson, Dells Way. I'd support this article. Within that master plan, we need to look at increasing our tax base to include industrial and commercial, because we need a broader tax base to support the school budget. We're getting into a sticky situation. We're going to run out of funds. Unless we increase our tax base like the surrounding communities, we're going to be in a bad spot. So I support this amendment.
Thank you.
Luke Drake, Duck Pond Road. I also support it for a slightly different reason. I think that the master plan is obviously a guiding document for the town. Lacking an update in that, you're using outdated information and or relying on one body in town to, of their own volition, determine what the town's going to do. I agree with the previous speaker that the process of updating these towns also brings to the front what's going on in town and what does it mean? I mean, there's a lot of folks sitting here saying, all right, so what's the master plan? What the heck does that mean? And why does it, why does it matter to me? There's these master plans tie in with other communities as well, and I do think that regardless of your position of whether you think there should be more industry, less industry, development changes, non-development changes, this is where that needs to happen. So it seems really short-sighted to me for the dollars we're talking about not to put the time, the energy, and the small amount of money that's being asked for into coming up with a document that we can carry into the future. This is far too old not to have been updated, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Hello, Clarence Gardner. This may seem really naive. What exactly is this $20,000 times 3, 4? Is it for to hire consultants to tell us what Weare should be, or what?
Who wants to speak to that?
I mean, let me expand on that. I guess I tend to think that if the town wants to update the master plan, that sounds like something for the town government and public meetings and things to do.
I'm going to recognize the chair of the planning board. Vice chair, sorry, I apologize. I was giving you a promotion.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not ready for that yet. Bruce Fillmore, Gould Road. These plans, they're created by consultants. Southern New Hampshire Planning does them. We've got a couple others in mind that we've also talked to that are, they're smaller, more flexible type consultants. But they'll send out questionnaires to the townspeople asking what direction they think the town should go in, if they're happy with it, to get a broad opinion from everybody in town. And I really encourage everybody who gets these questionnaires not to throw them away, fill them out and send them back. Typically the response rate isn't that great on them, so it really doesn't give you a full picture of everything. It gives you a picture of what the people that respond are looking at, but the more responses we get, the better idea we have. And there's a lot of community effort put in, input considered in this. It's not just some consultant sitting at his computer dreaming up something. I mean, it's real work.
I'm actually going to come off the podium to speak. I need to identify what you're afraid of my foot. Don't be afraid of my foot. So, but I want to be clear. I'm speaking as Eileen Meany from 282 Quaker Street versus Eileen Meany, town moderator. So let's clear that all up. One of the things that I think is important to consider when we're looking at this as a community, regional planning commissions are the sources of how planning happens not only at the community level, but with infrastructure. So for example, if we know that our community is expanded to the point where maybe a current state road is not sufficient to meet the traffic needs of the constituents, that is how it's determined through regional planning, through a master plan. That's how you determine that expanding may need to happen, or that's how funding is directed to accommodate infrastructure changes. And so that's something to consider for all of us if we want to be a part of that consideration. The planning for that happens in 10-year. A 10-year plan is established, and in order to become part of that 10-year plan where funding is directed, you have to have current information and be able to demonstrate a need. So just another point to consider in whether or not this is something that we adopt as a community and fund. And now I'm back to moderator.
Okay, I just want to say the vice chair was responsive to my question, so thank you.
Any other discussion on this article? Okay.
Helene Kirk, Mount Dearborn Road. What will the total cost be, since this is just money being placed into a fund? What is the total cost for, I guess it takes about 3 years the last time? I don't remember what the cost was the last time we did it.
If I'm accurate on this, it's 3 years, so that would be $60,000 total.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, it will move to the ballot as written. Okay, all those in favor of restricting reconsideration? A lot of green. Okay, moving right along. Article 18. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for cemetery improvements and fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of said sum from Cemetery Trust Fund Press account, recommended by the Board of Selectmen. The estimated tax impact is 0.
This is an annual request to pay for the repairs and damages to stone wall, fencing, and boundary markers. This warrant article is required to allow the withdrawal from the Cypre accounts for the cemetery trustees to utilize. Money not required will not be withdrawn from the account and only can be used for the Cypre income from Cypre accounts, cannot touch the principal. Trustees of the trust funds have custody over fund.
Okay, I recognize the Chair of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Weare Finance Committee voted to recommend this article by 9-0. These funds are used to maintain the interior of town cemeteries. This is funded through withdrawal from the Cemetery Trust and has no tax impact.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on Article 17? Okay, seeing none, it will move to the ballot as written.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of restricting reconsideration? Okay. Article 19. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to allow the Conservation Commission to secure contracted services with a licensed forester for forestry services, including plan updates, harvest layout, harvest management, forest inventory, invasive species control, and other related services, and to allow the Conservation Commission to contract or purchase materials or services for maintenance and upkeep of town forests and fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of that sum from the town forest account. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen. The estimated tax impact is 0.
I'll move this article.
Second it.
Okay. This is an annual request again. This contract, we have a contract with a licensed forester to take care of all the items spoken previously. This is funded out of the town forest, and there's no tax impact.
Recognize the Chair.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Weare Finance Committee voted to recommend this article by 9-0. The committee supports the contracting of professional services to manage and ensure the best use of the town's forests. This article is funded out of the town forest account and has no tax impact. Thank you.
Other discussion on Article 19?
Question for town council, but Bruce Fillmore, Gould Road. On his scope of services here, we've got secure contract, including plan updates, harvest layout, harvest management, forest inventory, invasive species control. Would it be okay to amend this article? I'm asking before I do it, to add in layout trails.
That changes the...
That's why I'm asking.
I would say that would be fine, because the purpose of the article is to secure contracted services with a licensed forester, and you're just adding an additional service.
Right.
I think it would be fine.
Okay. Did you already write it up? He's going to be so impressed. Okay. So you just wanted to add in a line that says trail layout, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor.
Madam Moderator, can we recognize the chair of the Conservation Commission before that is taken?
I didn't, and I apologize if the chair of the Conservation Commission's in the room, and I didn't,
Fine.
I apologize, I'm sorry, please.
Andy Fulton, Hemlock Drive, Chair of the Conservation Commission. Just wanted to point out that the resources that are used for this work are generated by harvests on town forest land. So this is part of a cyclical effort on the part of the Commission is to manage the town forests in a comprehensive fashion. And the better we manage for multiple uses, trails included, of course, the better we manage, the more resources we have to work with, and this is paid for through those harvests that actually occur on town forest land. The revenue generated goes to the town forest account. We need approval of the town body for any expenditure from that account, and this is the annual request for that allowance. Thank you.
Thanks.
Madam Moderator, can I ask a question of the chairman?
Of course.
Andy, question. I understand that the intent of this amendment that's coming, is that something that you feel is in the umbrella roundhouse of the town forester?
Yes, we absolutely rely on our contract forester to help us with any similar type uses of multiple stakeholders in the town forest. And I don't believe adding that language changes plus or minus what the intent of the article was. I think that was previously covered without the change, but it's absolutely fine to add that language. It is a descriptor, not a limiter. It's try to characterize the work, but it's actually a very expansive list of things that the town forester can do for us that are very critical to the health of our forests and to having a comprehensive plan for town forest lands.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor. And I'm going to try to cobble this together. All right, so shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to allow the Conservation Commission to secure contracted services with a licensed forester for forestry services, including plan updates, harvest layout trails, harvest management, forest inventory, invasive species control, and other related services, and to allow the Conservation Commission to contract or purchase materials or services for maintenance and upkeep of town forests, and fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of that sum from the town forest account. Okay, so that's the amendment. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a second. Okay, so all those in favor, or I'm sorry, discussion on this amendment. Of course.
Would you usually weigh in after?
Did you want to speak to it for yourself, or did you want to speak to it? That's okay. We're all in this together. Okay. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay. So all those in favor of this amendment, please raise your cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Okay, all those opposed to this amendment? I see none. So the, I'm sorry, I'm doing this to you all day, Andy. I apologize. So one in opposition for our records. Okay, so the amendment passes. So Article 19 passes as amended, and now I'm going to open up discussion on Article 19 as amended. Now you may please take the floor. Chair of the Finance Committee.
Yeah, thank you. So what I will say is, again, we're not in a meeting, so I cannot say how we will vote. What I will say is, based on some nods, it's likely that we would support this change, but we will find out on Wednesday when we meet. Thank you.
Good enough. Any other discussion on the article as amended?
Helene Kirk, Mount Dearborn Road. With this amendment, will this cost more? Do we need to increase the amount?
Well, that's not on the table, so it would only be 30,000 because that's what's written into the amendment. You could.
I wonder if we could hear from the Conservation Commission to find out, with having this added one, whether we need to add money to this article.
I'll entertain the chair.
Andy Fulton, Hemlock Drive, Chair of Conservation Commission. As I look at this as an individual, I don't see that it changes the allowance. This was something that was allowed before the change in language, and it's more explicitly included now. I don't believe that it changes the intent of the article or the funding needed to conduct the work that is anticipated.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment?
I hope this is in order. Every year we do this, and the chairman probably every year says this money comes from revenue from lumbering or something. I'm wondering how much that revenue is, and I guess where the rest of it goes.
Sure. The revenue generated by town forest activity, harvest activity on town forest land, is not exactly unpredictable, but it's irregular. Some years the market's up, so you get more income from a harvest. Some years the properties being managed through harvest encounter terrific stands of valuable timber, and some years it's a maintenance project with the anticipation of revenue generation decades down the road. So it's a moving target. The latest numbers I have from this past year suggest that sometimes it's actually more than anticipated. We received approximately $6,000 out of what was characteristically a maintenance type harvest program, and the market was better than anticipated and actually became a revenue generator where it was initially thought that it might not generate any revenue. So it's a variable target. A good harvest can easily pay for this article and then some on a year where we're having a good market and good product generation. Other years, it might be zero, but all the money goes into the town forest account, and the town forest account is only unlocked by the vote of the town body. So other uses we're not requesting this year, we have in the past, would be commonly for property purchase to create additional town forest land when we're working with interested sellers. But none of it moves without approval of the town body through town meeting.
Thank you. Other discussion on the amendment?
Hi, James Drury, Oak Hill Road, just speaking for myself. I just had a question. I didn't hear what the total was in the forestry account currently.
Do we have a total of what's currently in the forestry account?
Oh, it has, excuse me, $48,221.24.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
Andy Fulton, Hemlock Drive, Chair of the Conservation Commission. I just wanted to point out that that is a low balance for us because we have had this past 18 months or so some very significant acquisition work. But even that number rises and falls very quickly, but it's adequate to cover what's being requested in this allowance.
Thank you. Okay, any last bites on Article 19 as amended? Okay, and so it will move to the ballot as amended.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of restricting reconsideration on Article 19? All right, thank you.